Hi guys, I thought I'd jump on. I've promised quite a few of you some tips and tricks around stacking tool cakes. So I was just a mum when I started out making cakes, and I actually stopped because it was far too stressful. Oh, my oven. So I stopped because it was too stressful. So I just thought I'd give out some little ideas to help you guys that I've learned on my journey. I'm really new to cake making still, but I've definitely learned some good little ideas along the way. So I just wanted to jump on, say hi, give you guys the tips. So we're just gonna jump straight into it. I'm gonna jump around a little bit because that's how my brain works, but equipment. Cake board. You might not think this is essential, and you might think I just want to make it on a plate, but it will all kind of make sense soon. Ruler. We're going to do small things well, and then that's a really good building block for getting bigger and bigger cakes. Spatula offset. I went to buy a new one the other day and it was gorgeous and pink, but this is just my favorite. It's just an old wooden handle, but offset and large, and we think straight when we're doing this. A level. You don't have to have this, but it does help, especially as you get bigger and bigger cakes. And a trusty scraper. So the real basic things that I think of when I'm making a cake is this I know is straight and this I know is straight. So that's how I'm going to get my straight edges. And that's why it's important we don't make it straight on a plate. So I do have cold cakes. It is essential because if you're thinking about icing, you're thinking about butter. So my cakes are what I call a fashion cake. So these ones are to try and achieve height and straight sides. So I've made a batch of buttercream. I actually filmed the process and I'm going to give you the recipe in another reel. I use the same recipe for all steps. But at different stages, I alter it and change it. So this is actually quite a fluffy mix, a little bit of a stiffer mix. Some of the reels will show you to mix for like over 10 minutes until it breaks down. I don't like to do that at this stage. That's definitely something I do later on when I want to do my top coat, but I need a little bit of structure. So first thing I'm gonna do is put a dollop on my board. That's going to be my glue. And I'm gonna use my cake pieces that I have already leveled. I've trimmed the bottom and I've trimmed the top. I've double wrapped them and frozen them, and they're actually still frozen in the middle a little bit. So that is a bit of a game changer for me. Not all cakes freeze well. You don't want to be freezing sponges or chiffon cakes, but a butter cake recipe or a mud cake recipe freezes really well and actually comes out a little bit softer, a little bit more moist. So one of my friends told me gluten-free cakes don't freeze really well. I haven't really had experience with that, so it doesn't suit everything. But put my cake in the center of my board, but then I'm also going to use my trusty ruler because I do want to make sure it's center. And I'm thinking about that blob of icing. It is starting to kind of seize with the cold cake. So I know it's going to give me a really nice stable base. So this is a 6-inch cake and a 7-inch board. So that 10-inch board. So that is, don't make me do maths. So that's 3 inches. So I need a 1.5-inch gap all the way around is kind of what I'm thinking about when I do this. Clean hands, sanitized hands, ready to go. I can't use gloves all the time. It's just not practical and it's just not as hygienic. So just scooching my cake into the center. And look, this is not crazy important for mums at home making birthday cakes, but like I said, if we just do the little jobs well, then as our cakes get bigger, these steps actually become more and more important. So that's on there, and I wanted it to sit a minute before I start doing anything, and now I'm going to fill a piping bag with some buttercream. I've got it in my trusty Yeti thermos because that's just a little hack and an easy way to fill piping bags. All right, so lifting that up, giving it a trim. Now this is quite a small cake, so I don't want too thick. So putting a dam around the edge of the cake is important for fashion cakes because we don't want anything bleeding out into our top coat. So it is quite important. And when we talk about fillings, guys, in fashion cakes, it's really important to be fussy. So buttercreams, anything that kind of sets a bit firmer in the fridge or in my cold cake as we build up is actually really important. So no fresh cream, no fresh fruit in these ones, guys. Maybe other people can do that, but I am a big believer. Oh, hi. I love fresh cream on the side, fresh fruit on the side when you serve your cake. But when you're attempting these taller cakes, you want anything. So this is, my order was for a white chocolate ganache, which is, my ratio is to white chocolate is half cream. So whatever chocolate weight, use half the amount of cream and just short bursts mixing in the microwave. I actually use that ratio for my milk chocolate as well as my white chocolate. Now just bringing that damp up a little bit, so I've just got a nice lip. I don't want anything escaping, so I'm not scared to just come in with a bit more icing each time, just to make sure. So again, I'm already thinking that butter, oh, my oven. I've got some cute little rainbows for this cake drying in the oven. So that's another little hack that I've just made. So they're ready to go. So next cake layer, and in comes this one. So my aim is to not get this coming off the board. So I know that's straight and I know that's straight. So I'm actually bringing the cake to my scraper, and I'm using my scraper to get that nice and straight. So that's fun. Oh, hi. Oh, that's a bit of fun. And then I'm just scraping around. So not being afraid, I don't need to go too fast because I kind of want that to be setting. My butter is firming up each layer I do. And then my next stem for my next level. And even that ganache is not warm. So I made that first thing this morning because I didn't want that to be warm and I wanted that to be setting as it hit the cold layers of cake. So what I'm also doing is I'm just sealing my dam to my cake. And that's just gonna limit the chance of anything leaking out as well. So my white chocolate ganache, oh, it's so good. It's really yummy. If you ever have ganache in cake and you have any left over, make sure you put it in the microwave the next day because it's kind of your fudgy sauce, so really yummy. So these are my vanilla butter cakes. I only offer 2 flavors because it just means it's achievable. So I've already skimmed the tops and the bottoms off of each of these cakes. Now I'm just going to bring that to my scraper. So we're getting a bit of height now. And I'm wanting that to set a little bit, and then I'm just kind of making sure none of my dam kind of comes out past where I want it. Now, as you build them up a little bit higher, this is where this one here comes in. Hey guys, this is great. I always wondered about the little things of decorating. Hi, Luann. So I've still got one more layer to go. It's a 4-layer cake, but as that butter is setting, this is my opportunity to make sure my levels are real. So out comes my trusty little level that I've cleaned with Food Safe. So I pop these on and I'm just checking that bubble is in the middle. And if not, I'm just giving it a little jiggle while that butter's not fully set, while my ganache isn't fully set. This is my opportunity to just give it a little wiggle. And going back around. And at this stage, it doesn't have to be perfect, but if you're doing 2 or 3 tiers, they are extremely important steps. So just checking that that didn't go off center as I was doing that. And a little bit of icing squished out, so that's fine. And my next dam. And we're getting tools. So something that is really important to me that I've noticed not all cake makers do is that this has to be, whatever I'm using as my straight edge has to be taller than my cake. because I just lean against that so much when I get those straight sides. So just doing my dam again, putting a seal to the cake. Centering my board, my white chocolate ganache. So creamy. Spreading that out even. We don't want any little air pockets in here either, because that's how you get cakes collapsing. And my final layer, and I've actually specifically chosen this cake when I was laying them out. Ooh, I chose the one with the flattest bottom because it all just builds to give you the straightest sides and the sharpest edge. So I deliberately chose this one because it was kind of my flattest one as I trimmed them. Again, my scraper. Now, see, to me, it's really important that that cake is just below, because I'm using my board and my scraper to line all of that up. Cakes aren't perfectly round, especially when you're glad wrapping them. When they're soft, they can pull in the edges, so just be aware when you're glad wrapping them, you're not wrapping them too tightly, because it'll pull in the sides. Again, I'm going to bring it back here. I'm going to use my trusty level. This will be the last time, I promise. And I'm just going to straighten up. And make sure we're as level as we can be. My tradie husband would probably think it's not quite good enough, but definitely along the right lines. So I'm not in too much of a rush yet, because I actually want them to start setting before I finish my crumb coat. And once this is set, this part's done. So just make sure you take all the time in the world, but also being mindful, especially as the weather gets warmer, that you don't want that cake to get too soft. It's got a bit of a bulge there. I don't love that, but that's okay. I've got some other little tips and tricks if you ever get your cake poking through. So I had a piping bag. It's got a bit of extra in there, so I'm going to bring that through my joins. And I'm pretty happy. Once I like to get down, and pretty happy with that. And you don't have to use a piping bag for this bit, but I overfilled it, so it's just handy. And now we're going to crumb coat. So really important part of getting the end finish is locking in all those crumbs. And at the end of the day, if you've got a beautiful soft cake, there should be crumbs. So this step's really important to locking all of that in. I'm holding my spatula tall and straight. So just thinking straight, working it around. Again, you don't want air bubbles in your joins, so you want to be kind of filling them. Bringing it right out, keeping your top nice and square. Bulking out the icing. This is not a pretty step. Other people make it look a lot more glamorous than what I do. I don't mind bubbles at this stage. It means I've got a beautiful, soft, fluffy icing, so that when it comes all back to room temperature, as they're eating it, it is a softer buttercream. We don't want that to be too stiff. If I had no air bubbles, it wouldn't be as soft. So I just took my edge off then, so I'm a bit grumpy about that. Sealing it to the board is also really, really important. So just thinking really straight and down. You do want to get it sealed to the board because that keeps it fresh as well. Really important. So another really important reason why maybe don't do it on a plate or a beautiful serving dish. So now I'm thinking straight, and I'm trying, you'll see me lift it, and I won't love that I've done it, but I'm keeping my scraper on my board. So these are my two straight edges coming together. So you'll see a gap between my scraper and cake, and that's absolutely fine. And I'm going to show you what we're going to do. And you can see these little, this is where we get a bit handy, and we use our scraper to fill. Filling all of these, and I've got a little bit of extra on top, thinking flat, I don't want to angle it and take off my sharp corner. I want to keep it really tall, but I want to use that excess buttercream to fill all these holes. Oh, it's got a slight wobble. So all that work I've done earlier, I don't want to lose that. So I'm just being very gentle. My hubby was like, that looks easy, give me a go. And he almost put my scraper through my cake because he thought it was firm. It's not, very light-handed on this one. So I'm making a bit of a mess. That's okay, we're gonna clean it up. But my scraper stained to my board. And so this, you can already see just those bits I've filled are starting to get a bit smoother. And this process goes on way longer than what you think it should, and that's okay. And this is the bones of your cake. This is all, before we do all those pretty pipings and top layer, this is just the most important step. So just building out these edges, locking in all the cake. Conscious that I don't want a massive mouthful of buttercream, but also very aware that now the closer I'm getting to having this crumb coated, the more I'm trying to do long, smooth. You can cake decorate without a turntable. I don't know how, but I'm sure you can and people have. But it's probably my funnest part, so why would you? Why would you decorate without one? I don't know. So you'll notice I do a lot of round cakes, and that's because I don't like doing corners. They're really hard on hearts, squares and rectangles. To have full corners is just, so I'm trying to now get a full rotation, and you can see it's getting smoother and smoother. We've got some cake peeking through, and that doesn't offend me because I know what type of cake this is going to be when it's finished. It's going to have beautiful colors. My top coat has to be a little bit thicker because we're going to add texture. So I'm kind of okay that there's a bit of cake peeking through. If this was something like a wedding cake or something, I would put it in the fridge for an hour, and then I would actually come through and I'd almost cut out and refill and refill and cut out, just cut it back ever so slightly until it's actually a white base. So baking at home is very different, I guess, to maybe the extra steps I would do for a wedding cake or something, or a cake I'm going to sell. But for you guys at home, making beautiful birthday cakes for your grandchildren and children and family members, this is just a really good base. We're getting nice and tall now. Stepping back and just seeing. I know when I've lifted my spatula off, because my scraper off, because it starts kind of angling out and being a lot deeper at the bottom. But this one's looking pretty good. Like I said, this cake's gonna have texture, so it doesn't scare me too much. Now, thinking about not trimming off that corner. I want a sharp corner. I guess I'm not using fondant on this cake, but it's kind of the look you're going for, is that sharp. Remember, I've got a cold cake layers, so I can feel my buttercream is starting to change right now. Hi guys. Oh, hi. I can feel it kind of firming up, so I've got, it's nice. It just gives me a bit of a firmer base to push on. So not putting my crumb coating icing back into my main tub of icing, because I'm going to use that same icing for my top coat and I don't want any crumbs in it. So now I'm scraping my scraper. Unfortunately, there is a little bit of wastage, but it's important to me that I don't have crumbs in my top coat. So we're getting that beautiful sharp edge, and we are almost done. Bringing it into the middle. Most of my weight is actually back in the middle of the cake as I'm doing this, just so I know I'm keeping that spatula as straight as I can, so I'm not taking off anything. So almost done. Like I said, it takes way longer than what you think it should, but you can already see the basis of a really cool tool. What I like to call a fashion cake is these taller, and that's how I achieve it. This is going in the fridge for probably a good 2 hours before I actually do the top coat. So I will be putting up my recipe for my buttercream soon. And if you liked my tips and tricks, tag me if you give it a go, or just give me a thumbs up, because I'm definitely awkward and putting myself out there. But we'll see how it goes. I don't even know how to stop this. Thanks for watching, guys. See ya.